All right, and we're back. Day number two of fasting. Day number th- day number two. Yeah, day number two of fasting. Day three of Taraweeh, as we have done. So today, 20 minutes or less. What we're going to be talking about is working in the Middle East during Ramadan compared to actually working in wherever it was I was working beforehand, New Zealand or the West in general. So, a few key subtle differences I have noticed where, oh wow, it's still a bit quiet actually. 1 second. So, sorry, had to fix the audio a little bit there. So, first main difference is when I was in New Zealand, when I was working in New Zealand, I was one of the few people who were fasting in my company, or it was me and a few other people fasting. And I always felt, you're surrounded by people who aren't. And, the first thing, just to preface, I don't think it ever bothered me that I saw people eating or I wasn't eating and they were. That was something that never actually bothered me in the slightest. What I did notice, though, was I used to start earlier just so I can get home a bit earlier because I'd be a bit smoked by the end of the day. So I used to like wake up, eat, pray, and then head to work. I think that was the best thing for me. So I don't have to fall back asleep again. And yeah, like I found I had to be very, very productive in the first few hours of the day. I also thought that was something that was very, very important for me. I had to be productive. I had to, make the most of that time where I had 100% energy. And with that mindset, I felt almost like it was actually an overall benefit, really, because you're so pressed for time, and you have such a limited amount of energy during the day, especially as the day goes on, that like you have to sit there and you have to focus. Also, when you take out all the distractions of like, oh, I'm gonna go get another coffee and I need to get like some water and I need to do, you're not going to the bathroom as much, so you're really like squeezing down that time. So all the distractions are kind of gone and you're just sitting there focusing on your job. Now, in antithesis to like, well, not really antithesis, but here in the Middle East, the workday is usually generally shortened. So if you have an 8 hour workday, you're doing 6, 10, you're doing 8, however your workday is. So there's two kind of things I see. First of all, people who are working like the reduced hours, uh, well, I'm one of them, but let's just stick with me actually. I feel very, very pressed for time because you're not working a full day. So it's sort of the same thing, The time is shrunk, so you were really, really forced to like focus on your tasks and really, really hammer them out. I don't feel like you're doing any less in a day, in the 6 hour day. I feel like everyone's trying to get stuff done in the early hours of the day. There is like I call it like the 12 o'clock cliff almost, because like once 12 o'clock comes around, everyone's productivity just like drives, literally off a cliff. 12 o'clock comes, it's not getting done anymore. People are basically not answering their phones. It's like the whole place kind of dies down. If you're working in if you work in construction, I think you might be doing night shift because it's just a lot easier, especially in summer. The night shift's a lot easier because it's just too hot. And I think it is still reduced hours, but yeah, you are working at night. But yeah, like exactly that. Like 12 o'clock comes, it's basically like 90% of the people you usually would contact are not contactable anymore. So there is that. Um, Also, like the culture at work is, well, at least here, you kind of find that like the whole country has this decided break time almost where the project and your progress, people really become like a lot more like intrinsic in how they intrinsic, is that the right word? Doubt it. Anyway, they're not so, it's not that they're not focused on their jobs. I think everyone still cares a lot about their jobs. I think that people start prioritizing other things in their lives to that are more important. So like, the job is still always important. People, I'm not saying people are like lazy here, because that's unfair. But there is, you'll start noticing people who don't pray will actually start praying again. They'll start, there is those breaks and all that stuff. So people really focus on like the spiritual side of their lives almost, rather than just pure focus on work. And on top of that, you get that like added, morning productivity. People are just way snappier in the mornings, like where people were like kind of like lounging, like cruising into the day. So, we'd like ramp it up because the day is short. People are coming in and it's boom, task, 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 task. And I think if you really think about it, this is something that like people should test. It's like the ultimate test read. Like, are we achieving less? Are we doing, because we are working less hours, are we actually achieving less? Or could we just tell everyone, well, we have a 6 hour workday now, or a 7 hour workday, or whatever, how many hour workday it is. But, we have to hit these targets. We have to finish these tasks the same as you'd have in an 8 hour day. That's they had some country doing that. I don't know if like there's always these articles coming out where these countries are saying, oh, we're just trialing a 3 day weekend or like a 4 day work week. I don't know. You never really get that. You never get the results for those things. You just kind of hear like someone's trying it, and everyone's like super happy about it, but they never actually tell you like what the results are. Like, is it overall win? Is it overall bad? I don't know. However it is, they should. You should get informed. So yeah, like so that's like the first big difference, and you're fine here, and because you do have like the workplace here is the same as New Zealand. It's all multi faith, and I think everyone kind of just accommodates for each other here, which is quite nice. You don't find like, oh yeah, we all gotta hide somewhere, and like I think everyone's quite respectful of each other's religions. You'll find like people who aren't fasting, they're not just like ripping coffees in the middle of the workplace. They'll go have it in the break room. It's a lot more, it's a lot more like respectful. And again, I'm saying I don't think anyone actually gets bothered by people eating, but I think it's just it's nice to see that we're all kind of like in this together, especially here. uh yeah, so that's like that's big up there for what we do here. What other differences is there, like here and there? There's always like this one other point I was always thinking about is I always felt in New Zealand, like because I was Muslim and because I was in this environment where I'm the only Muslim there, like there's not many others there with me. I always had to, prove that me not eating wasn't like a crutch on me or anything like that, because you don't want to be that guy at the end of the day. And it's honestly it's true. You don't want to be that guy who's like, oh yeah, sorry guys, I can't actually do this today because I'm fasting, and like I can't be there. Like you're making excuses for your job because of your faith, because that just overall negatively impacts Islam. If you really think about it, it's overall like a big negative. Like, I never gave myself the excuse that like, obviously like when I had the prayers and like I had like food, like the time where I had food, like there was actually a lot of times where I used to, so like we used to eat at like 5:30, and I was coaching at that time in the gym, and I used to just break my fast in the gym by having like a date and some water, and just take the class, and I was fine. Like, it wasn't a big deal at all. I think people think that like people are under the impression that like if they don't eat exactly at the adhan time, they might actually like disintegrate, like a Thanos ring snap. And it's like, or not ring snap, Thanos like Infinity Stone snap, where it's like, we don't eat within the next 5 minutes, we're just gonna be like fairy dust in the air. And that's not the case. Like I always feel like if you're a Muslim in the West, you are like a representative for the whole religion. You're always, how you act and how you talk to people and how you treat people and how you conduct yourself in your job and how you conduct yourself in your business is Unfortunately for some, and very fortunately for others, you're the Islam people see people see. Yes, you're the Islam that people see. So if you're going around and you're like, yeah, oh, yeah, I'm actually fasting, so you show up to work like 2 hours late, and you kind of like, oh, sorry, guys, got no energy, and you're just always talking, I've got no energy, I'm so tired, and like, oh man, all you're gonna do to people, you're walking around like with that kind of attitude. All you're gonna do to people is they're gonna sit there and think like, man, this guy is making his religion all of our problems, and we never signed up for, like, we never told him to fast. He's fasting, and his somehow, like, this is our problem that he's fasting. you know and so all they're gonna feel is like, oh, Islam's this thing where it's like so imposing on people, and it's quite the opposite actually. And like there's a lot of, like, you could just Google what the Sahaba and stuff used to do during Ramadan, like, of the battles and all that stuff. So it's like we all have these like very very little, like, these, all these excuses. Obviously each person to their own, like, I don't know, everyone's abilities and what they can and can't do. But this is also like, like another thing I actually found was like people who are doing exams, and they're like, oh, I can't, I gotta eat, I can't fast while I'm studying for my exams, or I can't fast while I have my exams. That's like, come on, dudes. I think like life is way harder than that. Like, I don't think you fasting during your study period is gonna have any sort of negative effect at all. Like, again, like, people just need a little bit, like a little bit on the softer side of things. Maybe, like, I suppose, like, if you're diabetic, that's a different case. But like, you really don't, people be like, oh, I can't, like, I need every advantage I can get. God forbid, like, I am like a little cloudy. Like, yeah, okay, maybe you do get cloudy when you're like, when you haven't eaten all day. But at the same time, like, come on, dude. Like, again, that's something that you should know is coming. You'll find people who are like, oh yeah, like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't think. I need to not fast in order for me to get my 100% focus. Yeah, also at the same time, like, you're trying to cram in a whole semester's worth of information in like 3 days before your exam, because you're just having a good time the whole way through. But when it comes to like the fasting, oh no, I can't do that. But like, all the other stuff that you could sacrifice before, that's not possible. No way we could ever sacrifice any of that stuff. So again, each their own. I don't really care what you do, but like, it's your life at the end. you know I just think, you know I have never seen someone fail an exam. And I've been to, I've did 5 years of university, and I did high school and all that stuff, and I've had literally final exams, I've had midterms, I've had assignments, all fasting. And I don't think any one of us has ever been like, yeah, the reason I didn't do well in this, and I don't think there's ever really cases where we didn't do well, but like, yeah, there was actually some, to be fair. Let's get real. Some of those papers are roughy. They're on the rough side. But yeah, I don't think there was ever the case where we were sitting there like, yeah, you know what? It's because I didn't eat. That was why. That's why I couldn't think of anything. It's because I couldn't eat. It's very much like I was talking about yesterday with training. Like, people just take it way overboard. It was like, oh my god. Like, I reckon there is a feeling of tiredness. Yeah, you feel tired, but you'd be amazed what you can do when you're tired. I would go train. I'd be like, oh my god, I'm actually feeling a bit tired. But then once you start training, and once you get like over that mental block, that's like your brain telling you you're tired, you're tired, you're tired, you're tired, you're tired. Once you get over that, and you just start just training, like, you just get into it. You put that bar on your back. You're doing whatever, completely fine. Like, you move through. I'm not advocating, you just like, jam your blood, crash your blood sugar. And I'm not saying, the first time you try this, you chuck like 180 on your back. You're like, yeah, let's rip this, rip these reps, bro. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, even if you're a bit tired and you have no like underlying medical conditions and all that, just try doing something a little bit, just try push yourself a little bit more each day, and you will surprise yourself. Like everyone, you're always going to be a little bit more surprised. And like realistic, like people do such amazing things all the time, like I don't think people eat, people are just so used to being in like 1,200 calories like over their requirements every single day, that anything under that just feels like you're absolutely like cooked. So I don't know. I think everyone needs to, take some concrete pills, just toughen up a little bit. Don't use your religion as like a crutch for your job or your exams or whatever it is. You do you at the end of the day, but I think realistically, like, harden up, be better. Push yourself. And if you have something like, I have this huge presentation coming up on, I can't be fasting for it, or I have this huge, don't start preparing for it, 1 week before it's due, and being like, man, I just wonder, like, why am I so tired for this? Or when can I do it? Or like, make your accommodations before for it. Don't just sit there and, the first thing you sacrifice is like this 1 month. Because like, you always got to think of it. Like, I always think about it, in a sort of like a different way. It's like, I would rather, everyone thinks it's like, oh, I have the biggest test of my life. This is like the biggest thing, it's the most important thing in my life. But no, like, this is, I don't know, if you believe in the religion and you believe that everything we're doing, then this is just as big as everything else. I feel like this is another test that is just as big as everything else in your life. So whether you do or don't, and you think, or you think you can or you can't, this is just as big. This is a test. This is like, you don't know if you're going to be around after tomorrow. You have no clue what is coming. So you don't want like the last day of your life to be like, oh, God forbid you die or something like that. And it's like, oh, as we say, raht tahasab, or you'll be judged on, yesterday I didn't fast, but like, insane, I had to study for an exam, like how insignificant that is in the scale of everything. So yeah, that's my whole thing. Well, I think I did go a little bit off topic today, but it's all kind of in the same river, you know, the ebbs and obs. I don't know. One of the words is like that. The whole flow of all the stuff we discussed, that's kind of within the same mindset of what we do. Quite nice though. I did enjoy this segment today. I don't know how many minutes we have. If we have like a little timer on one of these corners going. If anyone has any ideas, I am all ears for them, by the way. All ears for some good ideas regarding, a Ramadan podcast. Also, I'm happy to take on anyone who wants to have like an opinion, a guest, anything like that. I am down for the ideas. So just ping me a message. I know we have some people who are keen, who told me about this last week. But yeah, thank you for listening. Have a good one. Catch ya.